The Ryan and Ryan Power Hour podcast on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to Ryan and Ryan here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
And now let's go over this Western Conference as we went over the East pretty much, talking about the tight race between the 8th seed Boston Celtics and Indiana.
The tight
Brooklyn.
race between bad teams that don't deserve to make
Pretty
the
much,
playoffs.
I mean, who would have thought that teams that are 10 games under 500 were able to come back, and make it exciting for people to be watching. It's pretty strange that teams that are 10 games under 500 can do that. Looking at the Western Conference, Golden State, of course, is running away. They've clinched the Pacific Division. I think that's their first title since the mid-'70s. Their first division title since the mid-'70s, so that's pretty exciting.
Is.
Memphis clinched a playoff spot. Other than that, no other team has clinched a playoff spot yet in the West, besides Memphis and Golden State. Houston's a couple games away from doing that. Portland a couple games behind them. The Clippers a couple games behind them. San Antonio a couple games behind them. Dallas virtually tied with San Antonio for 6th and 7th. Oklahoma City 4 games back.
You'd like to think that the Trailblazers literally have one locked up. I mean, granted, they might not have enough to make it to the title since they don't have Wesley Matthews for the rest of the season.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was a big loss for them. A lot of
Major.
A lot of people thought they could be the second or third best team in the West. Houston has 3 more wins than them. So Houston's in that 3rd seed right now.
And Houston's a major title contender. I mean, I personally think that whoever wins the West is going to win the NBA Finals.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe bet, I think. I
just don't think that in the East there's going to be enough competition to push a team to its limits to try to make them take their game to the next level. Like, the teams just aren't good enough to make a team like Cleveland or the Bulls take their game to the next level, where it's going to be close games, close series, long series, hard fought. You're taking your game to the next level in the Western Conference because all the teams are really good with MVP candidates.
Right, yeah, there's MVP candidates all over the place there. The only MVP candidate that's not in the East would be LeBron James, but he's not going to win.
Yeah, he's not. I think it's too bad that Pau Gasol probably won't get any votes because, I mean, where would the Bulls be without this guy?
Yeah,
what if they had Boozer again?
They would be, hanging around Milwaukee, I think. I think that they'd have about 8 less wins.
I mean, he's literally made this team a lot better. Mm-hmm. And it's too bad he probably won't get recognized for it because Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook and James Harden are having unbelievable seasons, and James Harden probably isn't even going to win it.
Right. And the Golden State's on a 7-game winning streak, and the Clippers are on a 5-game winning streak. They've creeped up. They're only a game back of Portland for that 4th seed. That'll probably be the matchup, which it seems like that's the matchup every year is the Trailblazers and Clippers 4 and 5. They seem to be playing every year.
There's just something about the Clippers to me that it keeps them from taking their game to championship level, and some of it might have to do with the fact that Matt Barnes is starting. And, right. I mean, I know their depth is being tested because a lot of their good bench guys are out for the season, like Jamal Crawford. And that's why Austin Rivers is getting so many minutes is because all the guys ahead of him are out. I mean, Hedo Turkoglu is getting minutes.
Yeah, Hedo Turkoglu, I'm not so sure about that. Memphis right now, if the season ended, Memphis would play Dallas. That would be the 2-7 matchup. San Antonio would play Houston. That's tough for Houston to play.
See, that's another thing. You can't even... Every team in that conference could win it, really. I mean, San Antonio, I mean, they've been to 2 straight finals appearances. They won last year.
Yeah, they're the defending champs in this playoffs.
Yeah, and not only that, Houston's title contender, the Clippers potentially could be. The Trailblazers are. The Golden State Warriors are.
Yeah, well, they're the favorites right now. I mean, even the Dallas Mavericks have had
Dallas
postseason
success. If they can play some defense, they're title contenders as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Oklahoma City has had a taste of it, and they don't
have enough now. Ibaka and Durant are done.
Right. I mean, Golden State will beat them easily, but
they're not a prototypical 8 seed.
No. I think Oklahoma City will win at
Memphis.
least a game. I don't think you'll see any sweeps in this.
Right. Throw in Memphis.
Conference.
I mean, that's 7
Memphis,
teams
I
that could
really
win.
like Memphis.
That
too.
is 7 teams in a single conference that could that have a legit chance of winning the NBA Finals. These are going to be like all 6 and 7 game series. I mean, that's the one thing that could help out the East teams is that they're not going to be having those long series until you get to the conference finals when it'll probably be Cleveland and the Bulls where. I mean, they might have a lot of 4 sweeps, 5 game series, maybe a 6, and
yeah. Well, Atlanta's going to be playing. If the playoffs started today, Atlanta would be playing Boston.
Right.
Cleveland would be playing Miami, and Chicago would be playing Milwaukee.
See, I mean, these just aren't like series that'll take too much energy out of you, where you could potentially save it for later rounds.
Right.
Where you should. It could be a major argument that. That 2 teams from the West should be playing for the NBA title. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure after whoever in the West wins the NBA Finals, they're going to say the real NBA Finals was the Western Conference Finals. Yeah. Although you never know, maybe the Bulls could win.
The Western Conference Finals are going to be something because it could be Golden State against Memphis. I mean, there's so many combinations. I'm assuming Golden State will be there. It'll be Golden State, against Portland, the Clippers, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas. It's
the only way that would keep Golden State out of that position would be if they start shooting bricks in the playoffs. And we've seen cold shooters. I mean, when you're cold, you're ice cold. You're not making anything.
Right. Some of the teams that have already been eliminated from playoff contention. Orlando again has been eliminated. Philadelphia and New York from the East.
Are you serious? The Knicks have been eliminated from the playoffs?
I know, isn't that surprising?
Oh, my God. I thought they were going to make a big playoff run with their awful team.
They're 40.5 games back of Atlanta for the number 1 seed. 40.5. I mean,
that's literally half of your games.
They have lost 40 more games. I mean, they have 58 losses. They're going to have about 65 by the time the season's over.
And they might not even get the number 1 seed.
Right.
Or, I'm sorry, number 1 pick in the draft.
They have it right now by 2 games from Minnesota. So we'll see. Because Minnesota has 16 wins. New York has 14. The teams that have been eliminated from the Western Conference Finals, Minnesota, LA Lakers, Sacramento, and Denver right now.
And that's another thing. Minnesota is going to be a powerhouse soon.
Right. And here's the thing. Sacramento's eliminated, but they're on a 4-game winning streak. I really like George Karl. I tell you, next year, you better watch out. I think they'll be in the thick of things for a playoff spot.
He seems to, he's using DeMarcus Cousins' abilities really well.
Yeah. Although I don't know if Sacramento will make it to the playoffs next year because, Oklahoma City's going to have Durant and Ibaka back, and the Western Conference will still be as strong as it's been. So I don't know. Sacramento might not make it back, or might not make it to the playoffs. But it would be good to see them make it.
Title contenders that didn't even make the playoffs. That's how stacked that conference is.
And then in the East, you have Brooklyn and Detroit and Indiana and just all these teams.
Detroit could be a good team in a few years since they've already got solid pieces in place. They just have to make sure to re-sign Reggie Jackson.
I do like Stan Van Gundy. I think he's a pretty good coach. He was one of the only people who could handle Dwight Howard. And
he did a really good job with Orlando.
He brought a team that their stars pretty much were Hedo Turkoglu and Dwight Howard, and he brought them to the finals. That in 2009, that does not happen. When you look at that Orlando Magic team, you're thinking, how could Jameer Nelson, Hedo Turkoglu, and Dwight Howard ever go to the finals together? Well, they did. Although they lost the Lakers.
Those were some really good shooting teams. They had J.J. Redick, too.
Yeah, they had J.J. Redick, and that's when Turkoglu was still a good player, I guess. I don't know. He only really seemed to show up in the playoffs.
He got 2 big contracts from paydays based on playoff performance.
Wow. Yeah, so there you go. And, what happened with Phoenix, man? They were in the playoffs for the longest time, but then they made that trade near the trade deadline, and they lost Goran Dragic, which was stupid.
And Isaiah Thomas.
And Isaiah Thomas. And now they're on the outside looking in. It doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs. Oklahoma City should be able to fend them off. So that's very disappointing for a team that was 7th or 8th before they traded Goran. So I don't get it.
I think they wanted to move forward with Eric Bledsoe is their point guard. I think they didn't like having 2 point guards starting and Bledsoe and Dragic.
But why would you pick Eric Bledsoe over
Because
him?
they literally gave him a max contract before the season started.
Yeah, I don't know who's running that organization, but they're all screwy right now. I know their head coach is Jeff Hornacek, who was a pretty good player for Utah. He played in the finals in 97 and 98 against the Bulls. So it's really... Yeah, I don't know what's happening with Phoenix, and New Orleans is a game behind them. I mean, Anthony Davis at some point will be in the playoffs. Doesn't look like it'll be this year, though, unless they can get on a real good winning streak, because they're on a 4-game losing streak right now.
They've had some bad injuries. Anderson's missed a lot of time. Davis has missed a lot of time. Eric Gordon missed a lot of time.
Yeah, they've had a lot of issues going on, but yeah, they're hanging around a little bit, and they've definitely made people. I don't know. I never understood why they changed their name to the New Orleans Pelicans. I don't like that name. I don't like the Pelicans name. I wish I like that Charlotte went back to being
the Hornets.
The Hornets. I like that. But New Orleans should have something to do with, New Orleans. Like, instead of Pelicans, I understand that there's, like, Pelicans on the Gulf of Mexico, I guess. But, I mean, the New Orleans, I don't know, have something to do with Mardi Gras or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was an interesting name choice. It just doesn't even sound, especially the first year that they had that name. When you were saying the Hornets, everyone was thinking about New Orleans.
Yeah, sure. And that... Yeah, that's not good, because obviously Charlotte is back with the Hornets. I like Charlotte's uniforms and colors, though. I like how it meshes. I like the purple and turquoise, I think, is what their colors are now. So, yeah, we're going to take a break, and we'll come back, and we will talk more about Chicago sports and sports in general. You're listening to Ryan and Ryan, SportstownChicago.com. The Ryan and Ryan Power Hour Podcast on SportstownChicago.com.